This is the Yukon Entrepreneur Podcast, and I'm your host, Carrie Johnston, recording today from the traditional territory of Champagne and Ajax First Nations in beautiful Dakwakata-Haines Junction. And this is a mini-series all for Yukon Innovation Week, and I'm joined today by Lana. Lana, please introduce yourself.
I would love to. My name is Lana Selbee. I am joining from Whitehorse, the traditional territories of the Kulin and Dunn First Nation and the Tonquetchin Council. Very beautiful, very snowy at the moment. And I am currently serving as the Executive Director of Yukonstruct.
And what is Yukonstruct?
So Yukonstruct is a nonprofit organization. It has been around since 2014 now, so quite a while. Community instigated and started organization, started with a makerspace, and has grown and evolved over the past few years. We're now one of the proud partners in Northlight Innovation, which is downtown. And in this space, Yukonstruct, it manages a really beautiful makerspace. We have a lot of equipment and tools and everything you need to make, to prototype or innovate in terms of physical products. And we also have a co-working space where entrepreneurs can come and they can connect and work and meet. And another layer of all of that is how we like to support entrepreneurs and innovators through business support. So we do startup programming and we do one-on-one business coaching, essentially, of, where do I go? How do I start when I have an idea? We help entrepreneurs at that very early stage.
And so it's Innovation Week here in the territory, November 21 to 25th. So what does innovation mean to you?
It's a great question. We talk about innovation a lot, obviously, working out of a building called Northlight Innovation. And the dictionary definition of innovation is really around just something new, like a new method or idea or product. So there's a lot of emphasis on that newness. But I think innovation, it's such a broad term. There's a lot of debate over what it really means in practice. And when I think of innovation, I really think of the ability to see opportunity, the ability to look at a system and maybe see how it could run in a different way. It's the ability to bring new things to life, I would say. And, innovation, I think a lot of people automatically think about technology because there's been so much innovation and newness in technology in the past few decades. But, that technology and the innovation that's happening is really impacting all sectors and industries. And there's a lot of challenges these days. There's a lot of really tough, sticky problems like climate change, like housing, renewable energy, and the ability to see new ways of doing, new ways. They're not necessarily brand new. It could be small tweaks. Sometimes really just a shift of perception or how you're perceiving things. So yeah, when we talk about innovation, we really want to help people to maybe see things differently or see opportunity where they didn't before.
And what inspires you about the work that you do?
I am inspired because we serve entrepreneurs and businesses. I'm constantly inspired by the people that are around me. It's the people that really put so much of their heart and passion and time into trying to bring new things to life, businesses that are really building a better future for all of us in many, many different ways, in many different industries. I just find the entrepreneurs and the types of innovators that we work with to be really, really inspiring because it's not easy. It's not easy to try to do something new. It's not easy to create any kind of change, whether it's through a business that's offering something that maybe hasn't been seen before in the territory, or, looking at a system and trying to figure out how to do it in a different way. It's just inspiring to watch people with ideas, see their ideas come to life. And so to me, that's what really drives what we do at Yukonstruct.
And what bothers you about the current system that we're sort of operating here within the territory for businesses and entrepreneurs? What would you change?
Well, I think there's a lot of really incredible things about being an entrepreneur in the Yukon. This place is, I feel like the Yukon really attracts adventurers and innovators, people that think a little bit differently and have a lot of ideas. And there is a lot of support for businesses, I would say. Like, I think there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of communities you can connect into, Yukonstruct being only one of them. But I think there's challenges. One of the things that we've been working really hard to do over the past few years is increase a connection for entrepreneurs and businesses, both inside the Yukon, which can be hard, because we're so spread out, and there's connectivity challenges, but also increasing connection with businesses and entrepreneurs outside of the Yukon. There are a lot of resources and programs, different funds across Canada that sometimes they can feel really far away. We might not know about them. We might not have as much access to them. So a lot of the work we do is trying to understand what are the programs and resources that can support entrepreneurs and businesses in the Yukon, and how do we connect to them, being in a more remote place. And also just connectivity in general. I remember during the early days of COVID, we have a startup boot camp that we've been running for a couple of years now. And we always had a vision of it being more accessible across the Yukon, because it's one of our goals is to really be able to support entrepreneurs and innovators no matter where they are. And COVID kind of forced us to take our in-person startup boot camp program online, essentially overnight. And in a way that opened up an opportunity for us. And so we were able to recruit more entrepreneurs from across the Yukon. And you kind of initially think, oh, this is great. Now our program's online, now it's accessible. And we found out really quickly, because there's challenges with internet and connectivity, that just because it was online didn't mean it was accessible for everyone. And so I think that's something that can be a real challenge for entrepreneurs in the Yukon, for sure.
Some of these things that you're chatting about, sort of access to connection to the outside within the territory, and then just even the physical infrastructure itself. What do you think it's going to take to transform some of these things to solve for them?
I think there is already, a lot of transformation happening. I think a lot of businesses and organizations are trying to move these things forward. And I think it's going to take all of us really coming together and collectively setting, this goal and this vision of where do we want to be, and what is kind of non-negotiable for us in terms of supporting entrepreneurs and businesses. And, they're complex issues and challenges, but I think the more that we can work together, in a territory under 50,000 people across the Yukon, I think we have a unique opportunity to work together in a really connected way. Kind of remove some of those silos and barriers that we all get kind of stuck in our own boxes of where we operate. But I think in the Yukon, we have a unique ability to move really fast and really get things done. And that's going to take, one of the goals of Yukonstruct is really, how do we bring people together to cross different sectors of industry and government and private and non-sector, so that we work together in a better way. Because I think that's where we'll start to find more solutions.
That working together in a better way is sort of part of the fabric of Canada now. We think about back to 2015 and the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action from the Commission. And, what that report sort of said when it came to reconciliation and the 4 A's and how we move that forward as, awareness of our past, acknowledgement of the harm, atonement for the causes, and action to change behavior. So what does it mean for you, for Yukonstruct, to demonstrate reconciliation and action, those 4 A's?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's something that I myself, and I would say our whole team and board have been thinking about for quite a while. And some of the ways I think we've tried to incorporate that into what we do is one, through the awareness, the education, taking the Yukon First Nation 101 training, and then also earlier this year, myself and our management team took an incredible program called Traverse, which is offered through IRP, Inspire Reconciliation Potential, which is co-owned by Tosh Sethwick and Davida Wood. And that program, over a few weeks, over a couple months, we got to really go through this process of looking at, what does it mean to be a settler in Canada? What is our actual history, and what is the actual history of Indigenous people in Canada? What is the Indian Act? What happened throughout this history of forced assimilation and residential schools, and how does that impact us today and our perspectives? And I think it was very eye-opening for our team. And it also, I think just the awareness then helps you to ask the right questions. And, as an organization, I think one of the things that we have been striving to do is have more representation, in terms of Yukon First Nations, working with organizations like the Yukon First Nation Culture and Tourism to offer a boot camp specifically for Indigenous entrepreneurs in tourism, that's really adjusted to be a program that works for the participants themselves, and look at how representation really matters in who we bring in to speak, and who is working in our organization, and the members that we're supporting. So yeah, I think it is being aware is just really looking and having those tough conversations and continuing to have them. There's so much more that we can all do. So a work in progress, but definitely something that is super, super important in all we do.
Mm-hmm. So living here in the Yukon in the far north, we have the unique advantage of kind of seeing the world from afar and through our unique northern lens. So what lessons do you think that Yukon has to share with the world about entrepreneurship, about business, about leadership?
I think there's a few things. I think, one of the things I mentioned before is I do think people in the Yukon, we don't necessarily have a lot of services or access that might be available in larger cities and different places in Canada, being a little bit more remote. And I think that really does bring out a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, doing new things in new ways. And I also think there's a lot of example of what economic reconciliation can look like in the Yukon, through the works of incredible companies like the one I was mentioning earlier, Inspire Reconciliation Potential, First Nation governments and development corporations, community corporations. I think there's lots of examples of what economic reconciliation can look like. And the Yukon, the entrepreneurs and the businesses here, one thing that I've really noticed has impacted me a lot is that they're really rooted in positive change, in the inspiring transformation is the theme of Innovation Week, because that's really what we see in the entrepreneurs here. It is not business for the sake of business or just sheer profit. It is really rooted in ideas that are meant to benefit community, meant to bring more opportunities to the north, more services. Like I think about a lot of entrepreneurs innovating around agriculture, around food, because they care so passionately about food sustainability and climate change. And thinking of the recent Yukon First Nation Climate Action Fellowship and the work that's coming out of that, I think it can be really transformative. And even in the federal government, they have an investment readiness program. There's a grant right now that's out because they've committed $50 million over 2 years to supporting businesses that are essentially centered around social purpose. And I see so much of that in the Yukon, and more and more, I think we're all realizing it's really important that business is leveraged as a powerful tool that it can be for positive change and for problem solving. So I think that is something really unique that we're all trying to foster, and Canada is really trying to invest in the Yukon. It's just that's what the businesses here are doing. They're trying to create positive change. They're trying to solve really complex issues that affect us all. And I think that's where business should really be looking and focusing right now, is how do we, both make profit, innovate new products and services, but for the benefit of all of us in a way that is more environmentally sustainable and in reconciliation as well.
Mm-hmm. So what's next for Yukonstruct?
So Yukonstruct next, well, to continue to do what we're doing, I think is always a really big goal, and to continue to do it in more relevant ways. We're actually just about to begin our strategic framework refresh, where we're going out. We've had strategic priorities for the last 3 years, and we're going out to our members and sponsors, supporters, funders, community to really ask, how are we doing? This is how we've been achieving these things. Are we hitting the mark? Is there anything we're missing? And how can we serve our community better? So that's something that the board will be leading for the next few months. And I think in the services and programs that we're offering, like our startup bootcamp, our one-on-one support for entrepreneurs who are just starting out, we're definitely trying to expand access. And in the past year, we've been working more. We've got a community outreach manager, so we've been working more to serve and connect with communities to understand what they need and how we can support. So continuing to do that work, and hopefully continuing to be a place where people feel that their ideas can really come in and be fostered and supported in community and brought to life. It's hard to be an entrepreneur and to try new things. So I think it's really important that there's community there too.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Lana. And I look forward to kind of seeing what happens during Yukon Innovation Week this year as we talk about, what innovation means here in the territory. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.